Welcome back to the Born for Greatness podcast. Today, I have an exciting guest, Travis Richey, joining me. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So, I don't even know where to begin, but we met over social media. And I have seen so many interesting things that you have done and are doing. So, give me a quick little overview of you.
Yeah, super quick overview is for the last 10 years, I've been going back into the prison system and helping the currently incarcerated population understand their identity.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. That is what was so funny when I was looking you up and I saw that and I just thought, wow, like that's just not something that I don't think I've seen anybody else doing anything like that. So what got you started? How come? Why? What was your reasoning behind it?
Great question. So true. So you're right. I'll start with your nobody else is doing it comment. What I've found is reentry or recidivism or prison reform. They're hot button topics, depending
Yes.
on the administration or the celebrity that's discussing it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really look over the last decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, um, the rate of incarceration here in America is quadrupled compared to any other country on the planet. And almost a third of every single juvenile that's currently in custody, first time they ever experienced an addictive substance was with their parents. So if we
Wow.
just start there and we start to
Mm-hmm.
go, okay, there's a problem here. And what I found is, I'm kind of a numbers nerd and a data guy. What I found is
Awesome.
that typically within the first 3 years of an individual being released, doesn't matter white, black, male, female, old, young, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
80 some percent of them go back to prison in the first 3 years. And so
Wow.
if you really reverse engineer that, okay, if
Mm-hmm.
if 8 out of 10 airplanes fell out of the sky this year,
Mm-hmm.
probably wouldn't have the airline industry next year. And they certainly wouldn't have more people boarding airplanes, and they definitely wouldn't get more money.
Right.
And so you look at the prison industry as a business. And so that is really something that I've focused on. I didn't want to get involved with, was it right or was it wrong? Was this drug worse than that drug? Was this, I didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to get involved in the minutia. What I knew was 93% of everybody incarcerated is going to get out at some point in time. And if we want those individuals to be back on the streets and back in our communities, and we want them to be productive, and we want them to be positive, and we want them to have skill sets, then we need to give them their purpose. And the only real way to get
Yes.
there is to help them to live with intent and ultimately recognize their greatness.
I love it. I love it. That's so amazing. How incredible. So what got you started? Like what was the thing behind getting you involved in the prisons?
Yeah, what got me started was my 10,000 hours incarcerated.
Got it. Okay. Well, that would make sense then.
I spent 15 months incarcerated a little over a decade ago.
Okay.
And
And
I
obviously
thought,
you had a firsthand
I
view of what
did.
goes on.
Fortunately and unfortunately, right? Those who are
Yeah.
closest to the problem usually have the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I spent 10,000 hours. There's an old Malcolm Gladwell book. I say old, and that'll show my age for everybody listening and watching. But there's an old book where he talks about 10,000 hours, becoming your greatest self and learning all of the keys and the tricks and the tips and the resources to really live life to your greatest. And so I, being a numbers guy, took that 15 months that I was incarcerated and kind of used that as my 10,000 hours. Up until that point, I had really experienced life fully. I didn't,
Mm.
I didn't go in and out of the justice system like a vast majority of these folks. It was my first time incarcerated. It was a white collar charge, and I had fought it for 6.5 years from
Wow.
2006 to 2012. Yeah. And
Wow.
there came a point where I was just numb. I was exhausted mentally and physically and emotionally and financially, and thought,
Sure.
whatever's coming after this can't be this bad. I walked into a courtroom every 30 days, every 45 days for years, spending time, spending money, spinning my wheels, and there was no outcomes, zero. So I had the opportunity to go inside and spend 15 months incarcerated and really get an understanding of what was going on. And so from my previous comment about a business, that was my background. I spent many moons in the financial services industry, raising money and running hedge funds and really building businesses. And I got very fortunate on my yard when I was incarcerated. They had a grant with a small business development center, and it had a community college that was attached to it. And because of my degree, I was allowed to go there Monday through Friday and teach hundreds of inmates.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was so
That
therapeutic,
is
Rebecca.
so cool. I
It
can
was
only
so
imagine.
therapeutic. Yeah. Because what happened was, and a lot of people who are going through this, you talk about greatness. Well, I've learned greatness usually only comes from great obstacles. And so for me, how does my greatness reflect while I'm in the pit? Okay, well, woe is me is typically the first response, and that's okay.
Yep.
That's totally
Yeah.
fine. That's normal. We're going to go through those things. But when I spent that year, because it took me about 3 months to get situated, when I spent that year in the service of other people, it changed my purpose of incarceration.
Wow. I love the way you say that. And it caught my attention what you used for a word, and you can tell your mindset, but you said I had the opportunity.
Yes.
And you don't hear people say that. And to me, that just speaks volumes as to what you were able to do and accomplish while you were in there, and what type of person you are and your view on the world now.
Yeah, I just wanted to come out better. And so when I sat down with these guys, for years, I would sit down with a business owner or a financial advisor, a hedge fund manager, investor, and say, okay, what's your pain point? And this was the same thing with the inmates. What's the pain point? And you know what's so wild, Rebecca, is everything, and I use everything loosely, but typically things came down to either money or information. And so you would have an individual in there, let's say a female, who I do a lot of work with females right now. And you find that a vast majority of them, 3/4 of them, prior to incarceration, were in some sort of abusive relationship. So you're definitely not in a mentally stable position. You definitely have some limiting belief sets. And so you kind of find yourself stuck.
Yeah. Wow.
Right?
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
It's the truth.
Yeah, not everyone is blessed with the resources or just the community around them to kind of help them out of that kind of situation that they're in. Because people don't, I say this all the time, and I've always thought it was interesting, because you think strong women won't end up in abusive relationships, and they're usually the ones who are.
Yeah.
And you become so brainwashed and so just lost in who you are.
Yep.
That things can happen. And to even say that you feel like you have control over your life and your destiny is just not the case. So yeah,
it's heavy
feel
stuff.
that.
It's heavy
It
stuff.
is.
And a lot of the guys would come in and they would have a charge, and that charge wouldn't be reflective of the human. So what I mean by that is, let's say an individual was there for a DUI or a robbery case. Well, that stigma starts to live with you once the moment that you're sentenced, right? Well, that individual is more than likely doing those things because he's either an addict or he needs money. And typically one precedes the other. And so while you're incarcerated, you're now being treated for DUI charges. So you've got some fines to pay, and you can't go to the motor vehicle and get a driver's license. But the reality is, Johnny's a drug addict. Johnny needs to understand why he keeps going back to these emotional triggers. He needs to understand why he keeps going back to the people who don't serve him. That's how you
So true.
rehabilitate Johnny for the next 3 years, not yell at him so that he can't get a driver's license.
Yes, I mean, you just speak so much truth. And as a whole, we don't stop and realize. And even I went kind of through this point in my life where I learned, like, I kept feeling like people were getting upset with me and mad at me. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? And I stopped and I thought about it, and it wasn't about me.
Mm-mm.
Usually isn't.
No.
When people are being mean to you, they're not being mean because they're happy people on the inside. They have their own struggles, and it's
Yeah.
just how they deal with things.
Yeah.
And we need to give people, I say this all the time, we need to give people more grace, and we
Mm.
just need to love people better.
Yeah, we don't do the greatest job with empathy at the moment. We
No,
don't.
no,
And
we don't.
we really don't, right? We really think,
Mm-mm.
I don't know if it's more of the pandemic, if it's more of social media, if it's a combination of
Mm.
everything, but you really have a lot of people that are searching and are lost.
Oh
And
gosh, so many,
right. And so if
so
you
many.
start to sit, I say it all the time, if we treated everybody that we met like they've just gone through some huge, huge, huge problem in their life, we'd probably
Mhm.
be right 80% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. So thinking about this whole the prison thing and how we treat people, I
Mhm.
was talking with a friend the other day about celebrities and how I've always found it interesting. Like, celebrities are awesome, right? I mean, they got there for whatever reason. Cool. Would you love to meet one? Sure. But people idolize them and get into this, like, they meet them and they can't speak and they can't talk. And they're just like, so like flustered. And I said, but they're no better or worse than me. They're a human. And that's the same thing with people in prison. We can't just look down on them because of their situation. They're still a human.
Yeah.
We're all at this, dealing with the same kind of stuff. Just some of us have been given better cards than the other.
Yeah.
And we just have to be better. We have to be more empathetic and kind and loving towards people.
Uh-huh. Well, you start to look at failure, and at a young age, I mean, you just spoke about this morning on your Instagram about exercise. Well,
Mm,
really the way to make progress in exercise, physically or cardiovascular, is to fail.
yeah.
You run until you can't run any longer. You take a breath and then you keep running.
Yeah.
Um, and you look at that in life. You get little ones, they come out. How quickly can we get this little one to walk or to run? And they fail, they
So
fall down,
true.
they get hurt. But somebody's there to pick you up. Somebody's there to guide you. Someone's there to coach you. Someone's there to mentor you. Someone's there to
Hmm.
believe in you, whether it's in
Yeah.
the gym or whether it's, the toddlers. And sometime in life, and I'm not sure where it is, we stop being willing to fail and willing to look at other people's failures as though we're supposed to guide them.
Mm, interesting. So what does your day-to-day look like at this point?
My day-to-day is wild. So on a daily basis, Accomplished is now in 17 different states.
Okay,
And
that's great.
it's pretty fantastic. We've come a little bit in the last 10 years. We're currently the largest provider of incarcerated curriculum in America.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Congratulations. Let's just stop right there and acknowledge what you've done. That's amazing.
It's fantastic. It really is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Our curriculums, we have a little over 4 dozen of them, and they range from internal and external, from apprenticeships to mindset, motivation, belief systems, habit formation, vision creation, and then a lot of the tangibles, whether it's carpentry or welding or business 101, entrepreneurship, communication. That's probably one of our biggest courses. And so on a daily basis, I get to sit down with people, incarcerated or not, and I get to figure out what they want to do with their life. And so I've been able to merge my two favorite things, which is finance and felons. And
That's awesome.
so on a daily basis, I'm an investor, and we have a small family fund, and we do some multifamily work and some franchise work and some hard money lending. And so that's what keeps me busy
Right.
financially and professionally. But nonprofit, as accomplished, we get to go and actually teach the federal government and state governments and county jails how to rehabilitate individuals that are incarcerated.
Oh, I love that so much. It was like speaking to my heart because that's just so incredible. What an amazing way to love on people.
It really is. No, you're right. It really is. I can tell you. So we just had, let's see, today's Monday. So 2 days ago, Saturday, we just had what was called the Convicted Conference. And we're obviously using a play on words with my background, but
Right.
in order to make a change in life, you have to be convicted. If you
So
really
true.
want, right? If you really want a
So true.
physical change in your body, you can't just wing it. You've really got to
Yep.
be all in. And that goes, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, sexually, all the above.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you really want the most out of life, you have to be convicted. And so that was kind of the premise for the event. And so we put 1,000 people under a roof and gave away 500 meals to the justice impacted children and 250 backpacks and school supplies and bicycles. And it was just magic. And
Wow.
I'll tell you, as cool as that was,
Mm-hmm.
there was this whole entire event was built around a media center that we funded in the state of Idaho. And that media center produced all of our marketing materials. Literally, the currently incarcerated, the inmates, learning audio, video, learning editor, learning DaVinci, learning
Awesome.
Photoshop. They did all of our marketing materials, all of it.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, that's not even the coolest part, Rebecca. This young lady who's in there, who is on year 12 of year 15,
Mm.
her daughter was in the event. And so she said to me, it still gets me a little misty eyed. She said to me, my mom couldn't be here, but I just called her and she wanted me to let you know she is here because of me.
Oh,
And so that's the change of the world. Those are the things
yes.
that just, because that next generation, while this woman is incarcerated and has already a sentence, her daughter, she now has a master's degree and is now involved in recidivism and has a wonderful life and is literally speaking about her mom in such a proud way while her mom's
Oh,
incarcerated. Like literally, like that's all I needed, Rebecca. Like that,
I know. Oh my
anything else is
gosh.
just icing on the cake. And I can't tell you,
Yes.
those are the stories I get every week in my inbox, every day on the phone. And that's why we keep going back. It fulfills me. And so no matter how many dollars we chase, we've done very well in life, God willing, knock on all the wood in the building. But I'll tell you, every Friday when I go into prisons, it fills up my cup.
Oh, and how important is that? We all need to be doing something that fills up our cup. I say it all the time. You can't pour from an empty cup.
No.
Yeah. And I think today when we're running this rat race and everybody's just like going constantly, sometimes you don't even realize that you're completely drained. And we
Yes.
forget to do those things that fill us back up. And I feel like most of the time, the things that fill us up are when we're pouring into other people, which is
So
kind
true.
of ironic, right?
So true. It is so
Mm-hmm.
true. We do. And you start to think about the buzzwords that society tends to use nowadays with depression and anxiety and stress. And
Yes.
a lot of those are really the inability to communicate.
So true.
Yeah. And so, if you're feeling those things, if you're feeling overwhelmed today, if you're feeling quote unquote anxious, I don't want to say that
Mm-hmm.
you have anxiety, but if you really take tomorrow and say, all right, I'm going to pour into myself. And once I do that, now I'm going to pour into others. Fair chance those anxious moments start to diminish.
Yes, I think you're correct. So, okay, so you're a numbers guy. I love data and numbers too.
Yeah.
Um, so what is the change you've seen since implementing the curriculum?
Such a great question. So we had the opportunity to run data for a number of years, and actually the Department of Corrections ran it on our 40-week course, and it was a mental, a physical, an emotional, and a financial course. So 10 weeks on each. And we started with identity, and I reverse engineer that because most of these guys will get out and they'll chase money, and rightfully so, because they're men or they're providers. But if you're somebody who isn't deserving of the bag or the money, well, then it doesn't do us any good. And so we start with like, okay, why am I here, and what am I doing, and where am I going, and then what do I really want to do to fill up my next 12 hours? And so that course we ran data on, and the department actually ran data on it for us. And after 3 years, they gave us 100 individuals, and they ran their reentry curriculum side by side against it with their 100 individuals. After 3 years, they had 87% of them. So 87 out of their 100 were back incarcerated. Now we had 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What a testament to what you're doing.
Yeah. When that data was released, every state in the union pretty much called us and said, okay, there's something here. And, parole and probation, great for them, God willing, they continue what they're trying to do. But, you can't get a live branch from a dead tree. And so oftentimes you have individuals who are seeking a little bit more, in the state of Idaho, for example, on what they call limited supervision caseload, you have less than a handful of officers for 1,100 people.
Oh, wow.
Rebecca, if you and I had 1,100 friends that were all on the straight and narrow, we couldn't touch base with them every day.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, no way. Who need it, right? Where am I getting clothing? And, my car just broke down. Who's the mechanic that won't take advantage of me? I was just laid off from my job. Like all of this, the stuff that I have to work through. Like, imagine you haven't been on the street for 15 years. You don't even know what an iPhone is.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's
heavy.
A lot.
It's heavy.
Really heavy stuff.
Our group really walks them through the success stories, the individuals who have done it, who've built it, who've been there emotionally and are now there, physically and are living it and have done well financially. And so we mentor them along back to the failure process.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I feel like, if you provide to people, obviously the education piece is huge, but like you said, a mentor, somebody to kind of guide you, to even just say, I'm in your corner when stuff gets tough, I'm here.
So true.
It just, it works wonders. And I think it's more impactful than we ever give it credit for.
Yes. And I think, like us here in this moment here and in the stuff that we do on a daily basis, you and I, like our obligation is to really hold the space, mentally and in our heart for the limitless capabilities of everybody that we come in contact with.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You've been
absolutely
through deep waters. I've been through deep waters. Like those deep waters give us perspective. That
is so well said. You're absolutely right. It really does. It does. And it makes us relatable.
So relatable. And again, you probably get questions like I get when people will say, and it comes from a limiting belief perspective. Hey, Rebecca, do you ever think I could? Do you ever think this is possible? Hey, how all of those like lack of belief or lack of courage. But you and I, like the only way that we got here was we trusted and we believed in the impossible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, you have such an incredible story. I love what you're doing. It's amazing.
I like what you're doing as well. I got a question for you. How did you get courage to do this?
The podcast. Oh, that's a tough one. I have something to say, and I want to help people who are hurting. That has been my life goal. I have such a heart for people, and I had to get over myself. And what if I don't say the right thing? What if I sound stupid? All of that doesn't matter. If I can help one person, who heard something I said and went, oh, wait, I think I am born for greatness. I can do great things. Or it's enough for somebody to reach out and say, hey, I need help with this, or, just anything. It's not about me. And that's what I had to get over, was this isn't about me. And it doesn't matter what people think or say, as long as I'm doing it with the right intentions, that's all that matters.
It's so rad. I love it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. I wish we could I speak so often to the youth. I wish I could just scream from the mountaintops that Sally Pants 347 will not be in your life in 24 months.
That is so true. Sally Pants, I love it.
Right? Like her anger, his hatred, whatever it is.
Yes.
Please let it go. Do not let this facade that there are not dishes in the sink of Instagram control your destiny. Shouldn't.
Absolutely. And it's, that's such a hard thing to grasp, even as an adult,
hard.
Let alone, I have 2 teenagers now, and I see what they're up against. And it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to process. And yeah, it's funny, I say the same thing. It's like what they think of you now, the people who are making fun of you now, are making fun of you because they're unhappy.
So unhappy.
And B, they're probably going to be the ones who don't make it in life nearly as far as you are, because, you're spending your energy on other things other than trying to put other people down, or, I hope that those people who are like that, and I always tell my boys, be kind to them regardless.
Yeah.
Because you don't know their battles. They're not being mean because they're happy humans.
No, you are so true.
So if you can keep that into perspective and just kind of keep going, but that's easier said than done, for sure.
It is. No, it is. And I think some of it goes back to identity. Like, I think a lot of these youngsters out there, especially the young women, they have this real attachment to the likes and the love and the fond comments that they're getting. And there's definitely, we know from data, there's a dopamine response.
Absolutely.
All of this social attention. So, and it goes back to that identity. Like, you've got to know who you are, young people. You've got to know that you're better than this, that you're born for greatness. You have to know that.
You do. Absolutely. And I think that's how some women get trapped into abusive relationships, because they get love bombed at first. And that's, again, if you're not confident in who you are and your identity, and you're looking for it elsewhere, it's so easier to get trapped. And it's so spot on what you said. Absolutely. So
love it. Well, I love what you're doing. I love your mission. I'm glad that you had the courage to see it through. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Oh, absolutely. Thank you for being my guest. This has been awesome. Now, if somebody wants to contribute to your nonprofit, how would they go about that?
Yeah, it's Accomplished Ventures, plural, accomplishedventures.org.
Okay, awesome. And they can find you on Instagram.
You can find me everywhere. Yeah, I am Travis Richey. I am comes from the identity. Is kind of why I put it in front of my name.
I love it.
Yeah, I think, so here's a tip for everybody. This is what I love. I love to teach this to the inmates. So many people will get out, and I find this with, a lot of my friends on this side of the fence as well, who can't really define what they do or what they want to do. And so, if you create like the I am, and if you understand like what you really do, it'll give you an easier time explaining what it is that you actually do.
That is very good. That's very helpful. Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you again. And thank you to everyone listening or watching. We will be back in a couple of weeks.
I love it. Thanks, Rebecca.
Oh, thank you.